Hi everyone, Jessica asked me to do a few of the Richie's Fabulae that she noticed that I hadn't already done, and I will do so happily, Jessica. In fact, very happily, because it's the story of Hercules, and it's been a while since I did any Hercules stories, and they're really terrific. Here we have him fighting with the centaurs. I like the story of the centaurs. A lot of the most famous teachers, a little bit like in Harry Potter. I think, is there a centaur that's teacher in Harry Potter? Anyway, centaurs often become teachers. Supposedly it was the idea that they embody the idea of kind of the theory and the practical, and that you actually have the kind of the intellectual human side of them as well as the sort of the wild side of it. So actually, I suppose we need to understand the hearts and the heads, that actually teaching isn't merely about the intellectual, it's also about the emotional. And you need to understand that in order to be the best possible teacher. You need to understand their emotions involved in learning. So you need to have the head and the heart constantly there, which I suppose the centaurs actually embody both of those things, the mind and the passion. The Romans might call it the ratio and the furor, or even the pietas and the furor. Anyway, I digress. The fight with the centaurs. Let's get cracking. No more of my waffling. So we begin with as soon as this. So in the previous story, which Jessica said I think I'd already done, I must have done it years ago. Hercules was wanting to drink this special wine, which the centaur Pholus had from the other centaurs, but he was told basically not to open it. But Hercules, who absolutely loves a drink, and he very much embodies that wildness as well. Interesting hero for the Greeks to choose, the greatest of their heroes to be someone like Hercules, that actually, murders his family. He was very human and yet also very great. He's a terrific character, terrific hero to read about. As soon, Simul, and as soon as the amphora, I am stopping waffling now, as soon as the amphora was opened. Jessica, I'm going to be doing two in a go, actually, to save time. As soon as the amphora was opened, perfect passive verb there. What tense, what voice? Perfect passive. Remember, if it was imperfect, it would be aperiebato, was being opened. So this is perfect, even though it has the word was. As soon as the amphora was opened, a most pleasant smell, superlative, was diffusus est, was... What do we want to say? Sort of poured out, maybe. Something like diffusus est might be quite good for that. Poured out, was released, maybe. That would be good. Was released everywhere. Most pleasant smell was released everywhere. For the wine was, another superlative, was very sweet. The centaurs sensed. Do we want to say that? The centaurs sensed? That's nice, anaphora. The centaurs noted, realized that well-known smell, and they all gathered together at the place. When they arrived at the cave, they were very angry because they saw Hercules, bibentem, present participle accusative, because they saw Hercules drinking. Then they grabbed their weapons and they were wanting to kill Pholus. Hercules, however, stood in the entrance of the cave, and he was sustanebat, and he was sustaining their attack, fortissime, superlative adverb, very bravely. He hurled burning, another present participle, burning torches upon them. He even wounded many with suis, don't forget that personal pronoun, with his own arrows. However, these were the same arrows which had been, pluperfect passive, which had been dipped in the blood of the Hydra. Therefore, all those whom he had wounded with his arrows were immediately absumpti, consumed, I suppose we could say, were immediately taken away were immediately killed. I suppose were immediately killed by the poison. However, the remainder who saw this turned their backs, plural, and sought safety in flight, made for safety in flight. The fate of Pholus. After the remainder fled, Pholus went out, deponent verb, looks passive but is active, went out from the cave, and he was looking at the bodies of those men who, pluperfect passive, had been killed by the arrows. However, he was amazed, another deponent verb, however, he was greatly amazed because they had been knocked out by such a light wound, and he was seeking the cause of that matter, of that effect, maybe, might be good. Therefore, he went to a spot where a body of a certain centaur was lying, and he tracks it, and he pulled the arrow out from the wound. However, whether by misfortune or by the planning of the gods, by the decision of the gods, it fell, lapsa est, referring to the arrow, Again, another deponent verb. It fell from his hands. This was good that you asked me to do this, Jessica. Lots of deponent verbs. It fell from his hands, and it lightly grazed his foot, wounded his foot. He sense it immediately extempore. That was in the 2022 Unseen. This is why it's so good, Jessica, and everyone else, to be practicing these stories, because you never know if the vocabulary will be there. And I saw that in last year's Unseen when I was just translating it a few minutes ago for my Year 12s, and I didn't even recognise it. He immediately felt great pain through all his limbs, and after, in a short while, he exinematus, he was overcome by the strength of the poison. I don't even know if we want to say knocked out. He was killed even. He was killed, I think, in the context of this. He was killed, I should have used that earlier on, by the strength. Can you notice that word vi? Don't forget that word vi. The difference between vis, which means strength, and vir, look at me with my childish writing with my finger, and vir, which means man, and indeed the other vis. I talked about this with Ali in a lesson, if you remember, a while ago, which means you want. Vis, strength, vir, man, and then volo vis vult, I want, you want, he wants. In a short while he was killed by the strength of the poison. Soon Hercules, who had followed deponent pluperfect, who had followed the remaining centaurs, returned to the cave, and with great sorrow he saw dead Pholus. With many tears he brought the body of his friend, genitive, for burial. Then, after he drained or drank another cup of wine, so I guess he wasn't that sad, he dedit se somno, he gave himself over to sleep. He went to sleep. Very good. I was pleased that you asked me that, Jessica. Good choice. I'll try and do another 2 today or tomorrow. Bye.